I'm going to show you how to get wholesale real estate deals with a lot of equity already built in, and we're starting right now. What's going on? My name is Tyrus and welcome to another video. And if this is your first time here and you want to learn how to buy wholesale houses and flip them for profit, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. This is part one, and I'm going to show you how to get wholesale real estate deals with a lot of equity already built in. So make sure you leave me a comment below and let me know what city you're investing in and any challenges that you're having right now. All right, let's get started. Okay, so before we get into finding wholesalers and buying their wholesale deals, we need to ask the question, what is a wholesale deal in your city and in your market? And as you probably know, there's buyers markets, there's sellers markets, and there are markets in between that. And we need to figure out what a wholesale deal is in that particular market, or what the buying criteria is for that market. So I grew up in a town close to Abilene, Texas. Abilene, Texas basically has a population of 100,000 people. Okay, it doesn't really move much. It doesn't really go up, doesn't really go down. And that's because the number of buyers equals the number of sellers. And I would refer to that as a normal market. And a normal market is where, again, everything is pretty constant, pretty flat. The question becomes, what is a wholesale deal in a normal market? And that's going to be 70% of ARV. And ARV is just simply after repair value. So, for example, if it's worth $300,000, if the ARV is $300,000, 70% of that is $210,000. And that's, again, in a normal market. So, there's normal markets, buyer's markets, and seller's markets. So let's take a look at a seller's market. And one place that comes to mind in terms of a seller's market is San Francisco, California. And there's a number of reasons why San Francisco is a seller's market, but one of those reasons, actually, let's go over a couple of them here. There's it's landlocked. Silicon Valley is out there. You got high tech jobs, high paying jobs. There's a lot of old money out there. There's a number of reasons why San Francisco is a seller's market. So the question becomes, okay, well, what is a wholesale deal in a seller's market? And generally, it's going to be 80 to 85% of ARV. So houses are more expensive out there. So let's say the house that we're looking at has a $1 million ARV. So 80% of that is 800,000. So a wholesale deal in a seller's market, in that particular market, when the ARV is $1 million, it's going to be 800,000. That's a wholesale deal. The other market is a buyer's market. And by the way, don't worry about this. I'm going to show you exactly how to figure out what market you're in and then just plug in the criteria for that particular market. So a buyer's market. Let's say Detroit. Detroit comes to mind for a number of reasons. And I'm not trying to pick on Detroit, don't get me wrong here. But Detroit, one of the issues they had is the water supply. The drinking water was not exactly what you were expecting. It's not exactly clean water. So that's one of the reasons. There's a number of reasons for it. But the question now becomes, what is a wholesale deal in a buyer's market? Well, generally that's going to be 60 to 65% of the ARV. So once again, if it's $300,000 as your ARV, 60% of that is $180,000. Now, when you're buying wholesale deals, you have to really pay close attention to the relationship. You want to make sure that you know what market you're in and then apply the correct criteria for that market in terms of buying wholesale deals. So let's go back to San Francisco. Let's say the ARV is $1 million and a wholesale deal is $800,000, right? So your wholesaler has it locked up for $800,000, but you're applying the wrong criteria. You're trying to get it for 60%, which is $600,000. So your wholesaler's got it for $800,000, but you're trying to buy it for $600,000. There's a disconnect right there. So that's not going to work. You're going to screw this relationship up with your wholesaler, and it's going to be a very short conversation, a very short relationship. So make sure that you're applying the correct, first of all, know the market you're in, and then second, make sure that you're applying the correct buying criteria for that market. Otherwise, you're going to screw up the relationship. Other sellers markets, there's Telluride, Colorado, there's Austin, Texas, and I'm currently in Austin, Texas. I live in Austin, Texas. I've been here for a while. And I can tell you there's the state capitol is here, the University of Texas at Austin is here. There's 2 big lakes that people go to. It's very popular. Lots and lots of jobs out here that attracts a lot of people in, and they want to buy. Most people that come here and they live here, they want to buy houses. So that affects the market. So another example of seller's market is Manhattan. Manhattan in New York, it's a very exclusive, very wealthy area. It's almost always a seller's market. And I'm sure you can figure out some other examples of seller's markets, but you really have to be careful because seller's markets actually can be quite fun. Because if you think about it, let's say you buy it, you make your repairs, and you put your house on the market. Well, generally speaking, in a seller's market, you can get many, let's say 10 to 15 different offers, and they're all full price offers. As a matter of fact, in the seller's market, you can actually go over what you think it's worth. So if it's worth $400,000, you can go to like $410,000, $415,000 because you got all these buyers chasing a limited number of houses out there. So seller's markets can be very, very cool. However, you really need to be careful in a seller's market, because in a seller's market, here's the way it works. Well, you should always be careful. Let me just write these down so you can take a look at it. Be careful on the sold comps. Make sure you have a really solid sold comps, and also the rehab estimate, because it's an estimate until you actually get in there and start working, right? So be careful of these 2 things, the sold comps and the rehab estimates. You always want to be careful, but especially in a seller's market, because let's go back to our $1 million example. Okay, so let's say we're out in San Francisco. We think it's worth $1 million, right? So we've got, let's say, 5 different sold comps. I want at least 3, preferably 5 sold comps that support my ARV. I don't want one at $1 million and the other 4, $900,000 or $910,000. So I got to make sure that I have solid sold comps, because here's what happens. Let's say this is $1 million and this is your rehab estimate. So you think it's worth $1 million, but it's actually worth more like 910. Well, that's going to squeeze your margins. And then the rehab, let's say you thought it was $50,000 and it turns out to be more like $80,000, you start getting squeezed in here. So be very, very careful when you're in a seller's market. Once again, seller's markets can be very, very cool because you get in, you make the rehab, you do the rehab, you put it on the market, and then it sells really quickly. You can turn your money really quick. You get in and get out. You can make a lot of flips really quick, but be careful. Make sure you have solid sold comps and make sure the rehab estimate is pretty solid. And don't forget to join my VIP club. We get wholesale house deals all over the country, and we also have access to lenders that will fund your wholesale deals. I'm also giving you a copy of my book for free. Go to freebook.getthedealsnow.com to get your free book now. And if you want to learn how to buy deeply discounted houses and flip them like a pro, start now by hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.